Thanks for staying with us. Join us on the show. He's the global leader and marketing communications consultant, also the lead pastor, the new Olushola Okodugha. Welcome to the show, Pastor.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Good to have you. You know, you're Shion's, we call you Shion's Pastor. Everywhere myself is Shion's Pastor. You don't even know your name, just Shion's Pastor is here. Good to have you on the show.
I'm so glad to be here. It's such a joy to be here.
So, Pastor, you know, one of the reasons why we brought you here is because we need your help to enlighten Nigerians, especially in the issue of marriage and relationships. Because a lot of people, a lot of wives are complaining because we are women, and we're on this show, and we get a lot of DMs from women who just feel that they have new knowledge, they are more enlightened, they are wiser, and they know what love should be now. You know, back then, you just get married, get into the marriage. But today, women know that love should be more than this. It should be more than just taking care of the home. They feel like there's a need for passion, there's a need for connection, and it's not there. But the husband believes that since I'm providing, I have a house, what are you looking for exactly? So there's a lot of women who slide into our DM to complain that Mariah, how are you guys managing your marriage? Because they are also struggling. They are seriously struggling. So where we want you to help us out is how to the 2025 marriages. How does it work today? How do we ensure that women and men are having they're not just cohabiting, but there's real love going on there?
First off, thank you so much for having me. It's always a joy to be here, and I really love your show. It's always very inspirational and great. I think it's a very
Before
interesting.
You continue,
yes,
I love your outfits.
I wore it because I knew you were going to love it. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think the first thing is times have changed and things are really changing. One of the things that I've observed, even as a pastor and talking to people who are married, because I'm married as well, is that I've observed a general pattern that there is a male defect somewhere, particularly with how men are being trained before they got married. I think the ideology that, and again, things are changing, but I think the ideology that a lot of men, and this is not widespread, have is that I am here to provide, and that's all that there is for you. And that's because of what we have seen the most. Growing up, most of the men, I won't say, I don't want to even use most because it's almost like generalizing, but some men have ideologies based on how they saw their parents. You know, you saw your mom, your father in the house providing, and your mom was always at home doing nothing. So when you are married now, that same mindset, you know, comes to you, and you'll be like, you know, why is she trying to have more? Why is she trying to do more? Why does she want to? And that's where all of the conflict then comes in. I think there has to be a fine balance now with men and women living together in marriage, that we are one together to provide together. It's not just supposed to be, oh, you do your own, I do my own. It's the power of marriage is the union, is the oneness that comes, you know, as a married person together.
Okay. So do you think that, you know, like I hear you, like when you're saying that, you know, that there should be like both parties saying that we're doing stuff together or providing together. So do you think that there's so much burden on the woman because, you know, society and history, you know, over time has just given the man the sole role to provide and the woman to nurture?
That has changed now. Men are not so rolling provide.
To provide, and then the woman to take care of the home and children. So now the woman also has the burden of playing all her own roles and also providing. Do you think the burden is so much on the woman and the men are not understanding of not being trained to be more sensitive to the woman that is carrying all this burden, emotional burden and stress? And women might have a way of, you know, acting out when they don't understand what's going on with all the stress that they are now faced with.
Absolutely. I honestly think it takes more than human, let me use that word, to be a woman. It's a beautiful. I mean, sometimes I look at my wife and I'm wondering, how are you combining all of this together? I honestly think there has to be a new orientation for men. And this is one of the things that I see all the time. I see a lot of women empowerment programs, women conferences, and my question is, who is talking to the men?
You should be talking to the men.
Okay.
You should have a men's conference.
I will do that.
But Pastor Shola, I think one of the things I would like this conversation to direct to is especially for Christian marriages. And I know YK is not a Christian, you know, but we are Christians. There's a lot of, and there are Muslims also watching us. But because we're such a religious country.
Yeah, very.
And is there anything like passion in a Christian marriage? Maybe that's the question.
Jesus.
Is there anything like passion? Because in a Christian marriage, you're supposed to be holy. There's always that thing of, now we are Christians, you know, we're supposed to be holy, and there shouldn't be all these things that we used to do in the world. We cannot do it here, you know. So, because, I mean, maybe some younger couples are breaking the rules, but some of us, we have that mentality to listen, we don't do that. We're just very missionary people. We're very, you know, we don't like too many dramatic. So is there anything like passion in Christian marriages?
Absolutely. You know, I think that. So again, when we say Christian marriage,
uncomfortable.
No,
Okay.
Absolutely not. Again, when we say Christian marriage, I sometimes don't even want to use that word. Why? It's because it's just like we say there's Christian rain, there's Christian sunshine, or there's Christian, you know, the word is a broad spectrum. While we have values and principles biblically that we follow, I also believe that there are earthly principles that must be followed if you are going to have a successful marriage or anything in life that's going to be successful. I think that for a Christian marriage, there has to be, between the husband and the wife, clear-cut agreement as to what is expected, what is not expected, following the biblical patterns. I think that. I don't know if I evade your question, but yeah. That's what I think.
So, one of the things that as we've been talking about, almost every Thursday we talk about marriage, relationship, thereabout, and it's been trending, the idea of men are polygamous by nature, or like, oh, this is, I've had a conversation with a Christian, and he was like, look at the Bible, how many men were monogamous?
Yeah.
How many? And they were still blessed. That this construct of monogamy is not even biblical, and that if you look at the Bible, most of the people, God bless them, they were even doing orishi, God was still blessing them. They were even having concubines, and God was still blessing them. They will have wife and still have concubine and still sleep with the house girl.
Yeah.
God was still blessing them. So how do we tie that part with the reality of the new world, and how we are now conforming to this new world, and how some men are saying we're just being unrealistic in our expectation as women, and the church is being unrealistic in expectations placed on husbands?
Yeah.
What do you say about that?
I think that when people use the word polygamy or monogamy, I think that already there are lots of men that are already, even though they are not married to that person, they have 5 girlfriends outside. What's the difference? They have 20 girlfriends outside. They have one. Why that happened in the Bible was in the Old Testament, and I don't want to go into the theological pattern of that, but it's because of the ideology. In the New Testament, it was different. If you observe that pattern, it was different. But now you find men who have, you know, relationships outside, and they don't think that it doesn't really matter. I mean, my wife is cook for me, she's going to take care of me, and then I have other women outside that would, you know, give me the other things that I want to get, which, as a Christian, if we're using this conversation as a Christian, that's not ideal based on our biblical pattern. I think that there has to be, again, orientation about what a real marriage should look like. I think that is the crux of
There's a question in my head. I wanted Biker to jump in. Do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to ask you what a real marriage should look like.
Absolutely. I think that, number one, it is one that starts first on the premise of love. Love being a decision, not how you really feel. There's nothing wrong with you feeling whatever you feel. And one of the things I always say is that if you cannot forgive, don't get married.
Wow.
Yeah. If you cannot forgive, because it's like an unending circle of forgiveness. Of course, you must know your limits. There are things that, I mean, I'm not one of those people who, as a pastor, would claim that, oh, if your husband starts to beat you, just keep forgiving him. Leave the house immediately. Again, I know that there might be some quarters that would find this a bit offensive, but it's the truth of the matter. But I think that a real marriage would be one that it is based on the premise on both of you's proper understanding together, friendship, because at the end of the day, I also think that love is sometimes overrated in marriage. This emotional, let me use the word eros love, where it's like, oh, I love you so much. Sometimes we forget that. It's more of friendship. It's more of forgiving one another. It's more of working together and learning to understand and adjust with one another.
So you lead a very youthful flock, young people.
Yeah.
So a lot of them, many of them are not married, and many of them are hoping to settle down. Now, I'd like to touch on issues of red flags, because the generation for today, they see a Regina Daniel, and they say, see red flags in front of her, and she went right into it. He's a man that was married to X amount of women. He has a lot of money. He ain't particularly attractive. He's, he's done so much stuff. But I don't know the other parts. But if she had gone to her pastor and said, I want to marry a Ned Nwoko, the pastor would say, absolutely not. Can't you see them also? Those are red flags right in front of you. But today, fast forward, she looks really happy. I mean, aside from all the drama that's happening, but she's in a happy home. He lives in mansions, flying private jets. She's,
looks happy.
I'm just saying, from the outside. From the outside, a lot of single women would rather be in her shoes. But let me just be happy in this private jet. I mean, but from the outside, she's working with senators in the committee, with some senators' wives. She's got really high to the upper echelon of society. She's somebody that people actually reckon with. She has NGOs, she has these foundations. She's out there. Yeah. And girls in your church are looking at me, Pastor, you're saying that red flag. How exactly do I marry that?
Yeah, that's such a profound question. I think that social media is a very interesting space, right? And what you see is necessarily not what it is.
True.
Sometimes people keep up with Joneses, and you create a facade that makes everything look as though this is the perfect way. Until 4 years, 10 years, sometimes 20 years down the line, things start to come up. I think when it comes to red flag is you have to be very truthful to yourself. Very truthful to yourself. And I think that a lot of times people see these red flags, but they ignore them. So for example, you are dating a guy who you have seen a consistent pattern of lies. He's just lying unprovoked. Nothing happened. He just lied. Rain is not falling. Do you know it rained yesterday? He's just lying. And then you say, oh, he just likes to exaggerate. You have missed something there. But you saw those red flags, but you overlooked it. Now, because you can see what other people have outside and it looks enticing, you forget that at the end of the day, it's working out for these people. I mean, I don't want to talk about some of these, but I think that it's one of the biggest problems. And I want to say this also from the perspective of young people, particularly Christians who are young people. I think that there is a lot of attribution and image that has been sold by social media of marriages that you hardly see people post. I can't wear this suit now and go and post beside Okada. I will have to post beside something that elevates my status. So everything we post on social media, most often than not, is not really what is going on at the backside. So I think.
So let's talk about deceit pre-marriage and during marriage, and I don't want to say after. It usually leads to after. So let's talk about what I bought, what I ordered versus what I got. And also the principle of testing the car before driving it out of the let me land. No, but these are important issues that people shy away from, but they are issues. Before testing the car before driving it out of the car shop. And then finally, women putting on all this or putting on different facades that that men feel that they're deceitful. So finally, because the church has said certain things shouldn't be done, then when they now get into the marriage and everything is taken off, they want like, no, but I saw a big thing and then I'm not seeing anything at all. What's going on? So they deceit. So the physical deceit and inherent, you know what I'm talking about, that goes before the marriage and then in marriage. How do couples, young people, handle these issues? Because sometimes they become so shy and withdrawn and they feel like they can't talk about these things with their peers, or because they're trying to protect the other person's ego and stuff, but then they're dying inside. What happens? And then one day it implodes.
Let me go on a short break. When we come back, I'd like to answer that question. I like the question. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.